And so we are recording now, and it is 8 o'clock. So I'm just going to start off. So you're still on there, but welcome everyone to Thursday night, Getting Back to Zero. It's been a great week, and I've got an incredible guest that we're going to really. I'm very anxious to sit and listen to. I think this is one of the few times that one of the rare times where I actually want to listen versus talk, which is crazy. But my little, just while everyone's joining us here in Southern Ohio and Cincinnati, we got flooded last night with rain, um, like I have never seen, and our basement flooded. We got completely overloaded, and I woke up to a mild flood. It went down, and then right before I went to bed, I came out and we were underwater. So I was up till 2:30 last night pulling carpets, trying to salvage whatnot. And the one thing I just thought about is that 2 years ago that night, I would have been half in the bag or probably 9/10 in the bag, completely unable or unwilling to help my wife when it was hitting the fan. And I got off easy in my life with not, I escaped being unable to attend some calamity. So it was just refreshing. I woke up this morning exhausted, still a lot of work to do. The basement was flooded, but I was actually very happy because I wasn't waking up seeing what I had missed that I was unable to help because of my drinking. So it was a good day. Um, the other thing that is going to tie into what we're talking about is in my still to this after a year and a half, still kind of looking at the weekend and how I'm going to get through things. And do I have to worry about making accountability issues? What plans do I do just to ensure my sobriety? I'm always looking ahead and coming up with a game plan. But everything was focused on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. And last night was not one that I planned on. And last night is when the basement flooded. And I was thinking last night, what a perfect example that I would have used to drink to oblivion. And it could have really sent me over the edge where I would have ended. So my point is that things hit our lives unexpectedly. I have to plan for, okay, the dog's going to whine. Come on. I have to plan for the unexpected because the unexpected is going to knock me out if I'm not prepared for it. So with that said, we have had Katie on before. Katie, I think I have to, let me just go to gallery. There you are. Katie's been on once before with her son, and she's got a number of years. I think she's an AA-er originally like myself, but just thrilled to have her on. But she wanted to come on, and I think I have a hint of what you're going to say. Oh, wait, did I get, yeah, we're recording. I got a hint of what you're going to say, but I don't know what you're going to say. So I'm just going to say welcome. Glad to have you. And what's going on in your life these days?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Katie and I'm an alcoholic.
Katie!
I am a true alcoholic through and through and through, where I will do anything and everything to escape whatever I'm facing or feeling at the moment. And sometimes those things are overwhelming. And just to paint you a little picture, at about 9 days before my 7th year sobriety. So I had been sponsoring people, I'd been going to meetings, I had a sponsor, I had service commitments, I did hospitals and institutions. I could name the list of everything I did right in AA. But what I did wrong was having some really high expectations of what my sobriety was supposed to look like to everybody else, and not asking for help and not getting vulnerable and real and intimate with people because I didn't know how to admit that I was struggling. I didn't know how to say, hey, Jeff, I don't know how to deal with blah, blah, a flood. I don't know how to deal with something happening in my life without having the smile on and everything looking good on the outside and still getting help for what was going on the inside. I had not managed how to do that in almost 7 years. Do you want me to just keep going?
What did it, I guess you, what could you have done to, why didn't you notice those things? Because you're, as a sponsor, you're probably seeing, and we all, you know, we hear people that are struggling, and we have ideas what we think might work for them, what worked for us. How did you, and I'm not faulting you here at all, but how did you miss those signs?
That's a really good question. I had a very intimate relationship with my sponsor, a very even incestual, and I don't mean sexual, incestual meaning crossing too many lines, too many boundaries, employer, employee, friend, babysitter. I mean, you just, any relationship you have in your life that was those lines crossed, I crossed them. And my relationship with her had begun to get really, really unhealthy. And I broke that off and got a new sponsor. And in that getting a new sponsor, she sponsored completely different than anything that I was used to. I had only ever had one prior to, I mean, the unhealthy-ish one. And I didn't know how to do it any other way. And so when my new sponsor had kind of did things very differently and had a real disconnected, I'll say, compared to what I was used to, I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to reach for her for help, because I had put her on this pedestal of, you know, she had 20 something years sobriety and everybody looked up to her, and she was a pillar in the community, and, you know, ran meditation studios and spoke at all kinds of events. And she just was someone that I couldn't take off the pedestal, in the sense that I thought her sobriety was perfect on the outside. I didn't see that she had struggles. And so I didn't know how to deal with those myself. And so it started derailing when I changed sponsors, which is very difficult, and I wouldn't suggest people doing unless, you know, you absolutely have to. But at the same time, get right in and learn and grow and get comfortable with that new sponsor, because I got to a situation where I had surgery, and I had had a surgery previous to that. And my old sponsor had kind of had me check in with her when I took my pain meds, and she would say, okay, so you're ready to take the pain meds, and I want you to call me, and then I want you to ask she would ask a certain number of questions, like, how's your marriage today? How are you feeling? How's your relationship with your kids? Are you upset about anything? Tell me about the pain level in your whatever. And she would do this little check-in to ensure that I was taking my pain medication, surely for pain and not for heart pain or head pain, you know, not just physical pain. And so when I got to this next surgery with this new sponsor, I didn't know how to reach out and say, I need more help than you're giving me. Or if this isn't a good fit for whatever reason, let's find one that is. I just kind of thought, I guess this is growing pains, and this is just how I'm supposed to learn to do these things on my own.
Katie, what scares me though about this, and obviously you and I are both AAs, but for people that are not, a sponsor could be your confidant. Two things. One, is a sponsor or your mentor, your accountability, your coach, your whatever you want to say. Is there is it a negative if it's a friend? Because does it need to be more of an instructor that's telling you this is what you need to do, is the first part. And the other thing is that I've seen plenty of sponsors in AA that are lousy, horrible, that I would never want. It's like, how are you? I feel sorry for whoever you're instructing, but when someone's new, they don't know what is a good sponsor or not. This person raises their hand, says, "I'll tell you what to do." So it's almost, there's no test on how to rely on someone. And when you're new, now you had a lot of years of history on being a sponsor and being a good one or not, but and also seeing sponsors, good ones or not. Someone that's new, they might be going down the wrong path without even being aware of it, is my concern.
And I would say that as soon as you start to see any yellow flags in, you know, the way that your sponsor is handling something, or if you think your sponsor's life looks like a mess and they're not managing real well, or, you know, any clues, I would say go talk to someone in AA or in your program of choice, whatever your recovery is. Go talk to someone else that may be able to give you an unbiased opinion, because it could just be, stop being a wussy and that's the program and get to it. You know, your sponsor's not someone that you can 911 call and that needs to be on call 24/7. Or it could be, hey, you know, that would concern me as well, and have you talked to her about this, and what steps have you gone to, you know, get through this yellow flag? So don't just let it go, I would say. And that's probably, I wanted it to work so bad with this sponsor because she had a great reputation, and I wanted what I could see that she had, and I just didn't know how to access it. And instead of continuing to say, hey, this isn't working, I don't know why it's not working. If I'm doing something wrong, tell me. But if it's you doing something wrong, I need to find somebody that works for me, or we need to figure out how to make it work for us, you know, something like that. Don't just let the problem go and hope it will get better. It never does.
So jump ahead. What 7 years? You're feeling some pain.
Actually, no, we're backed up a little. We're at about 4 years. And I had a surgery that I had continual pain for about 2 years. And at many points, I was under the assumption that pain was going to be forever. And I was very hopeless. And I hadn't faced that hopelessness in sobriety before. Because I'm a very strong, independent woman who can do everything for myself. And suddenly I'm having to rely on everybody to do simple things like drive me to the grocery store. And that hopelessness is what started kind of my tailspin, I'll call it. And I thought, okay, well, if I'm prescribed 2 Norcos, and the pain is still there, I'm going to take 4. And started in my alcoholic thinking, my ism thinking, where if one is good, 1,000 will be better, you know, that whole concept. And when the pain didn't go away and didn't get better, it was just a continued take more, take more, take more. And somewhere along the line, I crossed the line between, oh, look, if you take 6 of these, you get a little high. And then it would be kind of, I look forward to the high. Mm-hmm. And eventually that pain did go away, but then I didn't tell anyone about my inappropriate use of prescription drugs. Unprescribed, using them in an unprescribed way, and then also using them with intent. I think both of those things are key factors, because taking 1 pill more than what you're prescribed isn't necessarily something worth breaking your sobriety date over. Definitely you need to talk about it, but you add intent, in my opinion, my own personal opinion, not an AA opinion, that you add intent to that. And at that point, it really starts to mess with your sobriety. And it just kind of went from there. My life didn't get unmanageable because of that again. I didn't jump off the cliff. I didn't go out and drink, which I honestly believe that had I continued, that may have come up. I mean, I've had a lot of people say to me, how come you didn't drink? How did you make it from that point till now without drinking? And I can't answer that other than I still worked a really good program. I was still growing on a constant, on a constant level. The growth didn't just stop because I suddenly took a pill. My program didn't stop, and therefore my relationship with my higher power didn't stop. All of those things continued. But when the drugs ran out, let's just say, I didn't go out and go buy them illegally. I didn't pursue other forms, you know, that kind of thing. It just kind of went away. And 6 months later, 8 months later, I don't even know timeline because I wasn't keeping track. Another surgery on another part of my body would happen. And the same thing would be, oh, I'm looking forward to getting high again, kind of thing. And I knew right from the get-go I'd be taking 3 instead of 1 as prescribed, or whatever. And this happened, I would say, probably 3 different times over a 3-year period. And the last time that it happened was in February. I figured out my new date, and I think it's February 27th. But I still had no intent of telling anyone about it. It was still something that I just kind of did privately while I still did my pretend that my recovery looks the way it looks to anyone on the outside, and not really getting that intimate, vulnerable connection and asking for help when I was struggling on the inside. Until about a month ago, I went to a women's retreat, and I've been to women's retreats before, and they're fantastic. I looked forward to it. I didn't fear anything about it. I remember thinking, God, usually when I go on a retreat or I go to a vacation by myself and I'm going to spend time with just me and God, I kind of feel like God puts a theme on it for me. And my theme that I went into it was, I am entirely ready to give up all my character defects. And it's funny looking back, is because at that moment, I truly thought I was, yet I had no intent of ever telling anyone that little secret. And I'm going to just tell someone else's piece of their story. But one of the women that was at this conference, and by the way, Jeff, I talked to you a little at the beginning of the conference. You had a friend of mine that was there with me sharing. And so you talked to me, you know, there wasn't anything any different. Nothing was happening at that moment that I thought, you know, the world's going to change. But the next day or 2 days later, in this conference, one of the women that was sharing had 28 years sobriety, and this woman was more real and more vulnerable than I've ever heard anyone in AA be. And the reason that I say that is she was vulnerable about the things that she did wrong, let's just say, in sobriety. So since she got sober, I guess prior to that, all I chose to hear, and when I say chose to, I'm sure there's other people who have shared similar things, but all I could hear was, it was okay to admit all these things that we did wrong prior to getting sober, but once we got sober, the expectation is that we became perfect angels, which is not true. So I don't know where that thought came in my head, but it's what I had told myself. So fast forward to the conference, and this woman is sharing, and at 28 years sober, she is in front of 450 women, plus it's being recorded, plus it's on Zoom. And she openly shares about taking her sponsee to an event to speak at. And it's quite a distance away. And she had a little problem with shoplifting. Now, to me, I would think in my mind, didn't you stop that behavior when you got sober? But apparently at 26 years sober, she had not stopped that behavior. And she went to a rest stop with the sponsee with her, and they went their separate ways. She went into the bathroom. There's a giant bottle of Poo-Pourri sitting on the toilet that says, "Do not steal the Poo-Pourri." And so what does she do? She promptly puts it in her purse and steals it. So she gets done using the restroom. She gets together with the sponsee. They do their shopping. They leave. And you know those little alarms that go off at the doors when you're stealing something? It starts going beep, 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 beep. And her and the sponsee look at each other, and they both just kind of start walking faster to the car. They get in the car. They drive for a ways. And at some point, she realizes that it's time to come clean. And she knows she has to face it at some point. And she says, "Lisa, do you know why the beep, beep, beep went off when we left the gas station?" And the sponsee says, "Yep." And she gets all embarrassed and like, "Oh my gosh, you knew? Oh, that's horrible. And okay, I guess we should probably talk about it then. And, you know, I've had this problem and I don't know why I do it. And I probably ought to explore it with my sponsor." And she starts talking about stealing the Poo-Pourri. And the sponsee's eyes get about this big. And she's like, "You stole the Poo-Pourri?" And the woman says, "Yeah, I know. I feel horrible even having to admit this to you." And she opens her purse up, and the sponsee stole another bottle of Poo-Pourri from another bathroom at the same gas station. So the moral of the story being that, you know, God put these two women together, and she hasn't stolen a thing since, by the way. But the fact that she shared that very, very vulnerable moment of her own struggles at 26 years, and a speaker and you know somebody important. I heard the message for the first time that we don't become perfect when we get sober. All of our old behaviors don't go away. We don't have any expectation of what it should look like, and we need to ask for help, or we're going to end up stealing the Poo-Pourri with somebody else and get caught. And at that moment, thank goodness it all happened the way it did, is because at that moment I knew I had to come clean. I knew I had to tell my sponsor. We broke for lunch right after she told that story, and I ran up to my sponsor and I said, she had an appointment, so I wouldn't have been able to talk to her right then. But I went up to her and I said, "Before I change my mind, I need to tell you, I think I need to change my sobriety date." And she said, "Really? Well, we need to talk about this, and obviously we can't do it now." And, you know, so we set a time. And had I not told her right then, I probably would have changed my mind, because admitting something like that at almost 7 years sober to someone who at the time was currently sponsoring people, had service commitments, was very involved, still going to AA, bringing women with me to a conference, you know, all of those kind of things. And I don't know that I would have continued to follow through with my being honest, but how I see it is that when I told God I was entirely ready to give up all my character defects, even though I didn't know what that meant, he knew what that meant. And he provided me exactly what I needed, which was somebody else with more time than me, being more vulnerable than me about a behavior that I probably would have looked at as worse than just prescription drug use, inappropriate. Like, really? Oh my goodness, you did what? Not that I would ever say that to someone's face, but I'm sure those are the things I would have thought prior to this conference. And it gave me the opportunity to really get clean and not have any secrets, and to know that it's okay to be vulnerable and to ask for help. And I've changed a lot of things in the last month about how I'm doing my sobriety, although on the outside it doesn't look much different. You wouldn't be able to know that anything was much different about my program just by looking at it, because it really has to do with that deep vulnerability.
You know, the honesty thing is, me admitting that I lied to you is okay. Me admitting I lied to myself, that's hard. And that's the one that I hate to face. You know, I can go to sleep at night knowing I lied to you. It's when I admit to myself that, you know, when I realize I've been lying to myself, that's the hard one. There's someone watching tonight that's I'm hoping, but newer in sobriety. And I have so much respect for this person, because I believe they were at day 7 and slipped, and shared that they had. And it was like, it was magical, and it made me feel so good for them, because of they weren't forced into it. They weren't held under a bright light and said, you know, a lie detector test. They volunteered that they slipped. And it made me feel very good for them, because it shows you got everything you need. You just got to get over a couple things, and you can fine tune it. But the honesty is just, you know, to ask. And one thing I'm trying to do in my own sobriety is I lie to myself about, how you doing today? I'm good. Well, how'd you do last night? I heard the basement flooded. Did you, you know, any problems drinking? No, not a bit. I was great. I didn't even think about it. You know, didn't ever cross my mind. A couple of people, you know, we were out on the river boating. Oh, I saw people drinking, but I thought, ew, that's gross. Who would want to do that? That is such a crock, you know? Yeah, I was very stressing last night, and a beer would have been fantastic. There's nothing wrong with admitting the truth, because it is real. And if I admit it, I at least have the opportunity to go, you know what? Okay, here's a chance for me, a great opportunity. Last night, what was wrong? What was screwy with me that made me think that a beer would make this situation better? You know, what was bad? So if I can identify that, then I at least have a chance of working on it and calling, you know, someone like you and saying, man, Katie, last night I was blah, 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 blah. And at least now, by talking about it, we have a chance to fix it.
Absolutely. And I think that you've hit it right on the head when you said, with this person that you're hoping is listening, the fact that she came and was honest at that point when she didn't have to be. There was no lie detector test. There was nothing hinging on it. Had I done that at 3 or 4 years sober in the very beginning, the first time this happened, I'd have 3 or 4 more years sobriety now. I wouldn't be starting over on February 27th, I think it is.
Rookie.
Exactly. And I would have done it right, I guess you could say, if I could have admitted it then, but I couldn't. And
did you didn't admit it, but did you know that what you were doing was not what you should be doing?
Absolutely. There's no way you cannot know. You know, I've heard of people who struggle with, did I slip or did I really relapse if I accidentally took a drink of someone's pina colada that I thought was virgin and it wasn't virgin. That's a possibility of not knowing. But if you picked up that pina colada thinking, God, I hope they made this wrong, and it's got some rum in it and I can just claim it on a mistake, then yeah, you knew, and it's on you. Do you know what I'm saying? The difference
Intention.
there?
Yeah, intention.
Intention matters, and nobody can judge your intention. Only you can judge that.
You're so right. And surgery, what an excuse. I mean, I just right now bubbled up thinking about it because I'm going to probably have to get back surgery again. And I bubbled up with excitement because I felt that surge of, hey, I can, it's killing me. I am in so much pain, which will probably be true. It normally is. But what a great, now I can get pain meds and I'm justified because I'm in a lot of pain. So I'm not doing something bad, even though I am so excited about what I'm going to get from it. And I'm going to wish I could take 3 times the amount. But yeah, the justification is crazy.
And just to let you know, I've learned from my errors that I have to have some type of accountability to keep me from doing it again. And I have surgery coming up in 2 weeks. And so I have a very good friend that is not in any kind of recovery program, but very familiar with and understanding and supportive of. And she sort of volunteered to keep track of everything for me so that she can send me a text and say, all right, it's 9 o'clock at night. How many pills are in your bottle? And I've got some accountability. Or how long has it been since I had it? I can't remember if it was noon or if it was 1 o'clock. And I'm just going to convince myself that it must have been noon when I had it because I'm in pain now and I want it now. And then that will be 4 hours. And instead of having that out of, I can't remember if it was noon or 1, I have someone who's going to help me stay on schedule with it. Now, of course, if I want to take it, there is nothing in a million years that she could do that's going to stop me. Nothing. We know that. We have done this. We know that there is nothing preventing us from getting drink number 2 or 10 if that's what we want. And I'm not saying that it's her job to keep me sober, but that accountability is my plan, my plan A, that is going to keep me in line so that I know that accountability is there. And if I make the choice to use, then, you know, like I said, I would have done it regardless. But having that accountability in place is almost just like a little bit of a, somebody knows what's going on, so I have to be truthful with somebody. And you know, the program of recovery doesn't say you have to be brutally honest with everyone. I don't need to tell Jeff and every 5,486 viewers what my deepest, darkest secrets are. I have to choose to be honest with someone other than myself and God. That's it. So I can tell Jeff all of my secrets, or I can tell Carrie all of my secrets, but I don't have to tell the world. And I think that's part of the assumption that that we have to have this perfect sobriety. It has to look a certain way. Where my thinking was wrong with that is that I just because I stole the poopery doesn't mean that the whole world needs to know I stole the poopery, but I've got to get honest about it if I'm ever going to stop stealing the poopery.
And you know, for me, accountability is critical, but it's embarrassing at times. You know, when I had my surgery, here I am, a grown man, giving this pill bottle to my wife, and so she can say, here, you can have 2 now. Yeah, because I can't handle, I'm not disciplined enough to only have at the time. But you know what? It's better than the alternative. And like you said, no, you don't have to, the world doesn't have to know. It's not coming into a party and saying, hey, everyone, I'm going to be wanting to drink really badly. Don't let me. But to have a person that you trust and you're comfortable with saying, hey, you know what? Just so you know, keep an, I don't know. I say keep an eye on me, which is still, it's embarrassing to say,
It is.
but what am I risking by not doing that? And it's not that they're going to have to say, oh, Jeff, put that down. It's because I know that they would if I did it. That's enough to just that accountability to keep me.
And, I have probably 20 or 30 people I could name off the top of my head that would drive. I live in a small town about a half hour away from civilization and most people. And I know probably 20 or 30 people that if I said, hey, my sobriety is at risk and I really need help with accountability with my pain meds, that they would be driving a half hour before and after work every day, if that's what it took, to get to me to make sure that I had that help if I just asked. That's all it takes. But that pride, that I want you to think that I'm strong, that pride that I can't get past and say, Jeff, I need help. I know without a doubt, I know you well enough, Jeff, that if I said, can you set an alarm for at 2:00 in the morning and call me and tell me it's okay to take my meds at 2:00 in the morning, you'd do it every night for the next month if I needed you to.
Yeah, without question.
And I don't even know you that well, but I know that you would do that for me if I asked you. I know that. And I can't be vulnerable enough to ask is what got me where I'm at.
Well, one of the things that helps is that I don't mind asking you because from what I can guess, you have very similar problems as I do. Otherwise we wouldn't both be on a show about sobriety. So, right. Versus, whoever you don't want, I'm not going to ask that person that I'm uncomfortable with. I'm going to ask, and and this goes back to the person that was on day 7. Accountability doesn't have to be, if I tell you, if you're in the room with me and I say, boy, I don't want to drink tonight, and you're in the room with me, there's a good chance having you there, I'm not going to drink because that my goal is not to drink and you're sitting in front of me. It's going to be hard to sneak. Yeah, but I'm alone on a Friday night. Okay, well, you're right, but a phone and a person talking to. If I know that someone's going to call, just talking to someone, and it doesn't have to be in person. When I'm talking with you, there's a good chance I'm not going to be sneaking beers while I'm talking to you because I'm occupied talking to you. Yeah, but I'm alone and I live in wherever. Get on the phone and check back. It's just that time to be virtually on the phone or with someone, or even just in spirit,
even
knowing
just even just the knowledge that I'm struggling. That's sometimes all it takes. I have a friend, a very, very dear friend, that is struggling with something right now, and I'm not going to share her story or anything, but the fact that I know she's struggling is all it takes to give her a little bit of relief. Because every once in a while I'll send her a text that said, I'm feeling your pain, or I'm praying for you, or God, this circumstance sucks, or whatever it is. And just that little text is exactly what she needed, because she knows I feel it for her. I feel it with her. I'm experiencing her struggle to the best of my ability, because I haven't gone through what she's going through. But that connection is sometimes all it takes. Knowing, I just another little example. When I sent you a copy of the questions that I'm going through every night, not every night, let me get honest here for a moment. I'm trying. I have a goal of doing it every night, but there's many nights that I miss. And when I wanted to share it with you, my first thought was a little bit of fear of, oh, I wonder what I said before I'm going to share with Jeff what I said. I better look over it, kind of thing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because if that's something that I wouldn't have divulged to anyone, or I would have only divulged to a group of women, it's okay to guard information. But the fact that I was being vulnerable with you, when you got that, and I don't know if you could tell, but could you feel my vulnerability in that?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely could, and that was, I mean, it's I probably would have sugarcoated the answers for myself. What I was going to send you, I probably would have softened what I wrote down just because of that.
Right.
I would have extended a little bit, but not the if I knew I was the only one reading it.
And the whole point is that I've got to get vulnerable with someone. It doesn't have to be Jeff. It doesn't have to be all 5,000 viewers. It just needs to be someone for that accountability. And when we can get vulnerable, and it may be a bunch of different people about different subjects. I may talk to this friend about my marriage. I may talk to this one about my job. I may talk to this one about my struggle with my toddler. You know, whatever your struggles are, it doesn't even have to be someone in recovery. I have a very, very close friend that's going to be helping with my accountability and medication that has nothing to do with recovery. But she loves me, and that's good enough.
Mm-hmm. I've got some a tough one for you. A relapse. Is a relapse a failure? Is a relapse a positive thing? Is it something to, because I fear that if you tell me, oh, it's okay after every relapse, and that's what I will tell, I'm being honest with you, I will tell that to you and mean it. Hey, you're back. I don't care. Who cares about yesterday? You're back. That's for you. For me, if you tell me that and you're the only one, I'm going with my wife. Wow, that wasn't so bad. You know what? This weekend we're going boating with the guys. Yeah, Sunday morning, if she says, you know what, you were trying at least, that's okay. Hop back on. That's not going to work for me. And I feel guilty because anyone else that has a relapse, I'm going to say, welcome, thrilled. What did you learn? And I mean it. It's not sugarcoating. As long as you got something out of it, did you grow? Did you pick up a tool? Did you figure out why? Just like with you, with your the issues you had. Yeah, that can be really bad, but can you use that constructively to make you better? And that's a fine line.
It is.
So how because I relapse, I feel like I'm a loser. What a pathetic, how weak am I that I couldn't even go last night, you know, and without drinking beer. What kind of pathetic fool? But that's how, you know, so what do you say to someone?
I'm going to give you my honest answer. And again, this is my answer, not any program particular answer. I feel like that little disclaimer needs to be there. I don't speak for all of.
So anyone that's ticked whatever. Off, I'll put the email address and home phone in the
perfect
in the description.
Perfect. So my answer is there is some amount of failure in relapse. Absolutely. And I think that we do need to address that. If we sugarcoat it all, just like you said, and it's okay, we're back at it, it's all good. Then we're never going to learn that there's consequences for our actions. And those consequences are real. Your wife might take you back after this weekend of a relapse and the boating trip with the boys. But when it happens next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend, at some point your wife's going to be like, dude's never going to stop relapsing. I'm out. See ya. Mm-hmm. And the consequences are real. So we can't sugarcoat it to the point that someone doesn't understand the consequences. So yes, there's some amount of failure, but I had a good friend that told me, you're allowed to sit on your pity pot for 5 minutes, and then your turn on that pot is done. And the point is, okay, beat yourself up for a minute, recognize your failure, recognize what you could look at it, do a little bit of deep dive and figure out what you did wrong that got you there, because the relapse itself isn't the problem. It's the behavior prior to that is the problem. And that's what I want to fix. The relapse itself is an end result. So the problem is what I told you right from the beginning, was the not asking for help, not getting vulnerable, not getting intimate and admitting when I was struggling, and not knowing how to deal with hopelessness. So those were the leading up to pieces that I had to find. So that, my friend's analogy of you got 5 minutes on your pity pot, the 5 minutes is let's dive into it. Let's figure out what you did wrong. Let's fix it. And let's change some things, which I have done and will continue to do. Oh, I forgot one piece in that. I don't take direction very well. And those of you who know me might be laughing right now, while thank goodness they're all on mute, because I don't take direction well. And now I am trying to be more open to taking direction. Now, if Jeff, you were to say to me, Katie, I don't think you should wear your hair that way, I could smile and say, screw you, Jeff. All right. But if I don't stop and think about it, should I not, or should I, then I'm not giving my honesty, my program, the honesty that it needs. I have to be willing to at least look at what you're telling me. It may not always be right, because people give bad advice. But I've got to learn how to take direction. And so anyway, that was another piece of it that I forgot to tell you in the beginning, of looking at what went wrong so that you don't end up on the pity potty again and again and again and again. But there is also truth to, we are glad you made it back, because there's so many people who don't. And to be honest, I've said since I quit drinking that if I picked up another drink, I don't know that I would make it back again. And I mean that because that fear is a healthy fear that I have of me drinking. And so even though my bad behaviors led to certain degrees of relapse, it didn't take me to the drink, which means that I did catch it in time, because I don't know if I would have made it back. And I'm one of those alcoholics that went really fast, really quick. And I can't imagine that I'd be alive right now had I been drinking over the last 7 years. And if I would, it would be no quality of life. So my long answer to your short question was, yes, there's some amount of failure in relapse. And yes, there's some, you're right, we are thrilled you're back and just get right back on that horse. But I think there needs to be a healthy balance of it in order to continue to grow. I do not think my growth pattern has changed. I think that my growth pattern has been kind of like this, but it's always been growing in the long run. And I don't think that pattern has changed. So if I look back, would I have changed a few things? Yeah, I would love to have changed a few things. Do I think everybody should go through relapse? No, absolutely not. Do I think it's possible? Yes, I think it's possible. And yes, I do think people are completely honest. Like you said, we are just glad you're back. Let's get going again. Let's get you started, whatever. I think but in the long run, failure isn't failure until you quit. So when you quit trying AA, whether that's coming back to a meeting still drunk or whatever, you don't actually fail until you quit. So as long as I'm not quitting, I'm going to continue fighting when it's an uphill battle or when it's a downhill battle. And I'm going to continue growing no matter what. Then I'm not failing, because I haven't quit. You have to quit to fail.
My my relapse was just a year ago, Super Bowl weekend. You know, two things. One, it was the best thing that could have happened to my recovery program
Agreed.
because of what I learned. I don't
Agreed.
think I was ready. I don't think I realized how serious it was. There was a lot of things that I learned from it, and I think it was necessary. The other thing is looking back, I see the things I did wrong. I wasn't being honest with anyone, especially my sponsor. And he's a great sponsor, but I didn't tell him there was things looking back. I think I knew. Now, one, my wife was out of town, but um, I think I knew I was going to do that a good week or two. I don't think I consciously didn't know it, but I knew it. And especially as it time got looking back, I could sense anticipation of her leaving. And now I think I wasn't aware of it, but it was definitely there. The other thing is the accountability thing. It's mandatory, and you don't have to have a spouse or a partner or a best friend. There's accountability in these rooms. You and I don't know each other. Call me at 2 o'clock. I wouldn't hesitate, and I know you wouldn't hesitate to be there. And if I was struggling, I have numbers in my phone of people I don't even know. But I know if I saw them call me, I'd answer, and vice versa. What the people, I'm married and have kids that are they're watching my every move, not like a negative thing, but they're very supportive. And if I mess up, they're going to see it. I don't know, Katie, I don't know if I was alone in this world, if Elizabeth and the kids and that support was gone tomorrow for whatever reason, and I was just by myself with no accountability and a TV and an apartment and a couch, I don't know. I would have to find accountability outside. I would have to call someone immediately and say, get your ass over here now. I'm coming to you, one of the two, but I don't know. That scares the hell out of me. And you know, I always said the people that do this that are alone, single, you know, recently divorced, separated, I don't know, whatever the circumstances, I give them so much credit to be able to do this, because I don't know if I have that. And I would have to just I'd have to have a busload of people that were my new friends to hold me.
I'm telling you
scared.
though, I do. I'm a single person. I live with a 14-year-old and that's it. Who I can't very well ask to be accountable for my prescription drugs.
Right.
So I have a buttload of people that support me and love me unconditionally. And I even in my little town, there are enough people that I could call that would be here in a heartbeat if I were vulnerable. But here's the problem, is that me, as this high functioning, strong, independent woman that knows everything there is to know about sobriety, I never really said that and I never really thought that, but I'm exaggerating just a tad.
Right.
All of these things, my pride keeps me from saying, because if I just said, hey, I'll talk to you soon, Jeff, and there was no, Jeff, I'm really struggling right now and I need you to call me at 2 o'clock. If I didn't tell you that, then you don't know that I'm struggling and you have a life outside of me. And you're not going to just pick up the phone at 2 o'clock and call me. And so it is our responsibility, especially as a single person, to find that accountability and to be vulnerable with those that do care about us. And if there is no one, I mean, there are people who come into these rooms who have burned every bridge there is to burn and have no one. I know that my home group, the groups that I attend regularly, if someone, a homeless bum that lived under the bridge with the brown paper bag, you know, that fictitious alcoholic we all think is the only kind that exists.
Right.
If he were to walk into one of my regular meetings, everybody in that meeting would volunteer if that person were vulnerable, willing, and honest, you know? And that's where we have to take responsibility for our own recovery and know that it's my job to ask for help. It's my job to be vulnerable. I can't expect my boyfriend to show up and help me with all the things I'm struggling with today if he doesn't even know I'm struggling. You know, I can't expect my home group to all jump in and be taking turns if I don't ask for help.
It's hard because it's for me, it's the, you know, to go in and as a 6'4", 280-pound guy to say, I can't, I need help is hard when with a bunch of people, when, you know, especially for me, you know, when you're raised, I've been raised to tough it out, you're fine, you know, get up, do it yourself, you know, walk it off. You didn't ask for help, you know.
I was raised the same way. I was one girl that was, you know, amongst 5 girls, and I was raised to, you know, being told you're over emotional, stop making mountains out of molehills, and, you know, buck it up. I was in the army. I should know how to handle this. I went to war. You know, I could go through all of the, I'm not 280 pounds and 6'4", but I have that same, I should be able to handle this thing, you know, that most of us alcoholics do.
Yeah, it's that just opening up, but there's so many people, like you said, in your rooms that are dying to help, you know, and I've never met anyone that was actually inconvenienced when I think people
Never.
are thrilled that you do. So what is, how are you feeling now that you've admitted this? What is life after? I mean, do you feel like you're just, now that you've come clean, that you're right back where you were? Do you feel like a beginner again? What's your?
Some ways, both. There are ways that I feel like a beginner and I'll feel a little defeated. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. When some circumstances happened, you know, I was like, well, I may as well just drink. You know, if I have to change my date, I may as well just drink. And I got a little bit of hopelessness, but it didn't last long because I do have the tools that my program of recovery have taught me. And I started using those tools, and I started adding some new ones, like that inventory I shared with you. I changed and tweaked the things that needed to be changed. So on one hand, I do feel a little bit like a beginner, and I don't like going into a meeting and having to raise my hand. I am not looking forward to whenever it is that I have 6 months that I have to get up there and take a 6-month chip. And, you know, I'm not, I still have some humility that needs to happen. But at the same time, I also feel like, you know, like if imagine you're trudging up a hill and you're pulling a 50-pound weight with you as you're climbing this hill. That 50-pound weight is heavy and it's hard to climb, but you're still climbing and you're making some progress. And now suddenly that 50-pound weight is cut. My growth feels like I am freer to go stronger, better, quicker, rejuvenated. I don't even know how to describe it other than there's some great aspects of having that weight gone. At the same time, there's a little bit of humiliation that I don't want to face. And people, like, I didn't want to face you. I kind of avoided you when you kept asking me. I'm like, dude hasn't asked me to be on the show in months, and now he's asking me every 5 minutes, and I can only make up so many excuses before I have to tell him the truth, right? I didn't want to I didn't want to you to be disappointed in me. And there's still some of that that's going to happen. There are going to be people that I disappointed. But in the overall big picture, the love and support is always greater after the coming clean, and the level of intimacy that's crossed it's deeper. The relationships are deeper, are better, and it's like there's nowhere to hide now, and it's a freedom.
You know, we're at the top of the hour, but what you said, you know, I took a pain pill. Might as well. Why stop now? That's such a and you know, I hear people with food. Well, I ate a cookie. Well, screw it. I broke
I'll
the
eat the whole
diet,
cake.
so I might as well eat the whole thing.
That's me.
And for me, I almost think if I was to have a beer tonight, and for whatever reason, go, it would be harder to. I don't think I could start again tomorrow as strong. I almost would need to go down in flames to hit a bottom of the day so that I was really ready to start tomorrow. That's crazy.
But luckily that'll change. That will get better, because I only thought that for a very short period. That whole hopelessness of I may as well just pick up a drink was a very short period of thinking that, and it was gone pretty quickly. Like I let myself sit on that pity potty for a little bit, but by evening it was gone, and I haven't had the thought since.
That's the one beauty about recovery that I feared, but the periods of temptation when, you know, I keep referring to boating, but we love to go out where I come back in and Jimmy Buffett's, you know, tunes are playing and everyone's sitting around and oh my God, that looks so good. They're getting shorter all the time. I'm not having to work as hard to get through them. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. That's not gonna, and I quickly, oh, that'd play out nicely. But I do have to kind of, okay, where would you go? Sure, that does look fun, but let's go an hour from now. And now you got to head home. Okay, now I got to stop because I got to keep drinking on the way home. Now I got to sneak beer in. It's getting a lot easier in those. The moments
and it will get to where it doesn't even cross your mind. And I know that sounds completely foreign, but I was at Crab Island in Destin, Florida, if you're familiar with that. It's a big party place where boats just, it's a real shallow, like a sandbar in the ocean, and they all just kind of anchor right there, and it's just one big party. Yeah. And I was there for, I don't know, 3 hours over the weekend, and never once did it cross my mind that a drink looked good. Didn't at all. Yeah. I got some ice cream delivered to me by a boat. I got some boiled peanuts delivered to me. I had a great time. I enjoyed the water, and I left, and it didn't even cross my mind. But yet that's one of the big party places, you know. And 6 years ago, I couldn't have imagined going and not wanting to drink.
We're going to close up, but I want to adopt one thing, and that's when you are emphasizing a point. I guess is that what you do when you're really emphasizing a point?
There was a bug. I'm sorry.
Oh, I am good. Like my sobriety is strong. I am, you know, relapse. I am not going to relapse. I like that. That's a good. So it's a horizontal.
There smack. You go. Mm-hmm.
I like that.
We're gonna just call it smack the bug.
Yeah. See, you learn something in these things. So, all right, well, hang on, everyone. Thank you so much. Fantastic stuff. We'll follow up. There's so many things, but the relapse thing is big, and I'm trying to kind of get a checklist of ways that we can look. You hear the term prelapse, of things we can look for that might be indicators, but every one that I've come up with, the answer is talking to someone. That's the number
Agreed.
one. And it's like when I said about being alone, I could have every book on tape, every book, every whatever in a room, and even read them. They don't they don't work until I turn them on by talking with someone about it. It's just for me. That's just is what's necessary. So Saturday morning, got I don't even know where she's from. A gal named Sierra that's got a incredible story. She really hit some lows and made many attempts, but finally found happiness in sobriety. So I'm thrilled to hear her story Saturday morning. We do have the new page, the website, www.gettingbacktozero, and hopefully all these streams we can go through that. We're going to have a resource page, lots of fun stuff on that we're really going to get some great places to go on that. So anyways, thanks so much, Katie, and we will
Thanks
see
for having me.
everyone Saturday morning. Take care. And let me stop the recording.